Good evening and welcome members, officers and the public and press to another formal meeting of Newham Council's Cabinet. And this meeting is being live streamed via Zoom on the Council's YouTube channel. So welcome to everyone who is watching. To minimise travel and maintain social distancing, most officers will be joining this evening via Zoom, and councillors that have been unable to join the meeting in person but are attending in their capacity as Cabinet members will be able to participate in the debate. However, in terms of voting on any matters being brought to formal Cabinet, they won't be able to have their votes officially recorded or their attendance recorded either, should I say. So with regards to meeting etiquette, please can I ask that if you wish to speak, if you could raise your hand using the hand raise functionality on the Zoom platform that we're using this evening. And can everyone physically present please continue to wear your face mask unless and until you're invited to speak. And once you finish speaking, if you could kindly cover up your face. And I also just remind members and officers to introduce themselves when speaking. So we're now going to be going on to the main agenda items as set out in the Cabinet pack that's been published 7 days in advance of tonight's meeting. So I'm going to be asking in the first instance if Joy, who is clerk to the committee, can advise of any formal absences that she's received in terms of absence notices. Joy, any?
Yes, we have, Chair. Yeah, we've received apologies for absence from councillors Lofthouse and councillors McLean.
Okay, fine. Are there any other absences that need to be noted? Any member of Cabinet? Fine. Can I just advise, Joy, that I also have Councillor Niloufer Jahan. Oh no, she's here.
No,
I thought that she was.
She does have to leave early though because she's got another meeting.
Fine. All right, super. So we're going to be jumping on to agenda item 2, which is declarations of interests, covering pages 9 to 10 of the agenda pack. And can I just ask formally members of Cabinet who are present at this meeting, both on Zoom or physically from, if there are any matters that are going to be considered where you will have to declare a interest. Any? Nope. I can't note any declaration of interest, Joy.
Okay, thank you.
And colleagues, we're now going to be going on to the minutes of the last Cabinet meeting that was held on the 1st of June. And these are covered in pages 11 and 24 of the agenda pack. And I'm taking it as having been read by all members of the Cabinet. Can I ask if there are any matters or omissions pertaining to the minutes that need to be raised? Joy, I can't see any matters concerning the minutes that need to be raised. So can I just note, for the purposes of our formalities, for those members of Cabinet that are here in this meeting, could you confirm that the minutes as set out on pages 11 to 24 are accurate and you're agreeable to them?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Thank you very much, colleagues. Have you noted that, Joy?
I have, yes, thank you.
Thank you. And then going on to agenda item 4, we have appointments to outside bodies. And just to advise, Joy, there are no appointments to outside bodies being announced this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Now we jump on to the substantive matters on the agenda, and over the next 4 items, we're going to be welcoming various members of the Council's Overview and Scrutiny membership, but specifically chairs of particular scrutiny commissions who have been driving forward work in particular areas of their accountability, holding the executive to account. So the first Scrutiny Commission report pertains to serious youth violence and its effects on young women in the borough. And this is going to be presented, if I've understood it correctly, by Councillor Daniel Lee Parkway. Is that right?
That's correct.
Over to you, Daniel, and welcome to formal meeting of Cabinet.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and I have some brief remarks. The Crime and Anti-Social Behaviour Scrutiny Commission initiated a review into serious youth violence and its effects on young women in the borough prior to the outbreak of the global coronavirus pandemic. This report and its recommendations, which I commend, is the culmination of the Commission's work on this subject. With the recent incidents of serious violence in the borough, it was important that we never shy away of examining the evidence and investigating new measures and methods to tackle these matters in our midst. I have no hesitation in commending this report into youth violence and its impact on young women, and especially its recommendations to the executive. This is because it amplifies the voice of a formerly marginalised young woman referred to in the Commission's report by the pseudonym Jane Harris. She has first-hand experience of violence and gang-related activity, although I am pleased to add that she is on a positive life path, now given counsel and other support she receives. Nonetheless, all the evidence we heard from the council, its partners, as well as academics in the field, corroborates her brave testimony, making her voice all the more powerful. It goes without saying that we cannot ignore her or the voices of those young women presently caught up in the plight she once was in, as we hear their voices echoed vicariously through hers. There are many in our society who are overlooked as a matter of course, and young women all too regularly constitute one of these marginalised demographics. That intersectionality exacerbates overlooking any particular demographic is the real horror of any marginalised person's lived experience. And none of us can be under any illusions that the lived experience of young women caught up in youth violence, criminality, and gang activity is particularly horrific. It is, in brief, intolerable. From this perspective, besides looking at the broader determinants of youth violence and its effects on young women, the Commission focused specifically on their lived experience to vivify the importance of the Commission's support of all the Council and its partners are currently doing to combat this scourge. Bringing their experience to life in this way also underscores both the importance and urgency of the Commission report's recommendations. It has been recognised by the Metropolitan Police that the involvement of young women in gang-related criminal activity across London is largely hidden and undoubtedly underreported. This suggests an area of urgent attention to reveal more fully the extent of this hidden activity. Bearing in mind that it is the abject horror of the daily lives of young women that remains concealed. As Sophie Linden, London's Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime says, it is vital that we fully understand the complex causes of violence and its impact on women and girls in London. Besides taking evidence from a wide range of key stakeholders covering the Council's executive, as well as its partners, the Commission intentionally sought evidence from a young woman directly impacted by youth and gang violence. Her experience reported on below under the pseudonym Jane Harris gives this report the reality that is sometimes missing from reports of this nature. It is a humble privilege for the Commission to have heard from Jane Harris, and we thank her in particular for her brave, frank, and open testimony. Her story emphasises the need for stronger joined-up partnership working, reflected on more fully below, as well as the crucial importance of grounded and consistent support based on an enduring relationship of mutual trust, the type of relationship that develops through interaction with the same social worker over time. There are two central aspects to the recommendations the Commission has produced. The first of these is the urgent need to develop and implement a comprehensive anti-gangs and exploitation strategy focused on the lived experience of young women. This strategy should include a clear emphasis on preventative measures on the one hand, as well as supportive mechanisms for young women on the other. And the second is generally true of so much of the work of key stakeholders trying to improve society in general, strengthening our joined-up partnership approach to deal more effectively with the eradication of this issue. This is supported by the triangulation of evidence taken by the Commission, as it was echoed by more than one key stakeholder. Joined-up partnership working would help to improve outcomes for young women. Evidence led by prominent academics in this field only served to emphasise this point, suggesting that it was especially important that partnership working include local organisations and charities in Newham. It is though Jane Harris who deserves the last word. Marginalised as many young women caught up in youth and gang violence are, her voice should be heard loudly and clearly by all policy and decision makers. She, through her lived experience, has articulated the case for the recommendations contained in this report, and we would be committing a grave moral mistake if we were to ignore her often marginalised voice, or through her, the voices of all those young women she represents. I hope that, if anything, this report amplifies her voice. In closing, I would like to thank the members of the Commission for their unfaltering diligence, commitment and participation. I would also like to thank all those who shared evidence with the Commission. And finally, I would like to thank the Executive for the time it has taken to consider this report and implement its recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Daniel Lee Parkway. I'm going to be opening up for any comments or questions from members of the Cabinet. And I'm going to take the opportunity of being in the chair to kick off, but also just to advise that following on from the conclusion of our discussion around your report and your presentation, in line with the protocol that's been established, we will be providing a full written response on behalf of the Executive back to scrutiny members within the agreed timescale of 2 months, which, as you'll be aware, is the protocol that is in place. So firstly, I wanted to thank you and other members of the Commission that looked into this particular area within the broader agenda of youth safety and issues of exploitation and violence facing them, and wanted to commend you all for the diligence and the seriousness that is reflected in your report and the range of matters that you explored, alongside the expertise that you leaned into, with a particular acknowledgement of the work of Dr. Simon Harding, who is a national leading expert in this area and is an expert that we have also engaged with as an executive. I note that the Commission held your meetings on this particular topic on the 13th of February 2019, subsequently on the 25th of February 2019, on the 12th of March 2019, and then subsequently held an informal session in February 2021. And I appreciate that the part of the reasons as to this report coming back to the Executive at this juncture, i.e. July 2021, following your exploration of the issue back in 2019, will in part have been a consequence of COVID-19 that commenced in the UK in March 2020. I guess the reason why I wanted to reference that is because the dates that you began to explore and scope out these very serious issues that rightly require attention and focus correlates with the work of the Youth Safety Board, which had commenced with its formal series of meetings, and similarly have engaged in this area alongside a range of other matters and themes as they pertain to youth safety. And I specifically wanted to note that the Commission's recommendations around pupil referral units and other provision outside of mainstream education should be reviewed is something that the Youth Safety Board has also examined as part of its formal role in aiding the Executive and Council's thinking on this front. There's also been, as part of the broader youth safety work piece, an appreciation that the dynamics of youth safety and issues of violence and exploitation are issues and matters that have gender dynamics at play. And it's also a strand of work that is being incorporated and has been for a while with regards to the domestic agenda and violence against women and girls piece that we engage with as a local authority. So I very much value the contributions in that regard across the areas that you explored through your inquiry. And I suspect that when you receive the formal response, you will be heartened in noting the advances that the Executive and the Council have already undertaken across those areas, because your inquiry correlates with the work that was undertaken as part of the administration's commitment to this very vital area of work. So I'm going to just pause there and invite any members of Cabinet if they've got any comments or questions at this stage. I've got Sarah Ruiz. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Roxana, and thank you, Daniel. Just an observation, I suppose, when I look at the 5 recommendations, and I note that probably 4 out of the 5 actually referred to the Children and Young People's Directorate, and yet nobody from the Children and Young People's Directorate was actually invited to the commission. And I just wondered, I mean, I don't mind, and it's absolutely fine, but I just wondered how come we'd got all the recommendations and yet we weren't at the commission. Just out of interest, really.
No, that's fine. May I answer, Chair?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. So when we started looking at this topic, essentially, we followed where the evidence led, essentially. And so with that in mind, when we heard back from the witnesses, we then obviously formulated that into recommendations. So that's the reason why we didn't set out essentially to come up with those recommendations. It was as a result of the responses that we received, and that's why they were on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from any member of the Cabinet or wider executive? I can't see any hands up. Okay, fine. So thank you very much, Councillor Lee Parkway, and I look forward to engaging with you again when we present the formal executive response. Thank you very much. Right, we're now going to be moving on to, apologies, I've still got my mask on as I'm speaking. We're now going to be moving on to agenda item 6, which is the Scrutiny Commission report relating to the coronavirus 19 response on part of the council, which was scrutinised under the auspices of a overview and scrutiny task and finish group. So again, I'm assuming that this is being presented by Councillor Daniel Lee Parkway. Is that right?
That's correct.
Brilliant. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. It is well over a year now since the global outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. This report, which I commend to the Cabinet, looks back and summarises all that the COVID-19 Commission has reviewed and recommended since it was established on the 15th of June 2020. Following the outbreak of the pandemic, there was a need to establish a joined-up and cross-cutting, nimble and agile scrutiny response to the ongoing situation, and the COVID-19 Commission was established to play this role. Its primary purpose was to examine and make recommendations on any COVID-19 related activity and decisions made by the Council and its partners. In discharging this role, the Commission paid particular attention to examining the impact of COVID-19 on our community, what needs this created, and what the Council and its partners was doing to understand and meet these. And number 2, examining the Council and its partners' transition to the recovery phase and return to business as usual. The first session of the Task and Finish Commission focused on the community view of the overall impact of COVID-19 on the environment, community safety, safeguarding, health and well-being. This included views of the Council's response to C-19 from the NHS, local community groups and a London-wide perspective. The second session looked at the challenges faced by schools in the expected return in September 2020 and looked at the schools, unions, parents and governor perspectives on this alongside the Council's viewpoint. The third session reviewed the impact of the Track and Trace programme and approach in Newham, including the pilot of the NHS Track and Trace app in Newham. The fourth session focused on the efficacy of the Council's communications campaign for COVID-19 awareness and how this could be improved. To do this, we invited experts in Council communication to make representation to the committee. We also examined in this meeting the Help Newham support programme, the work that this had undertaken to support residents and the transition of this programme into Well Newham. The fifth session focused on winter preparations for the Council in light of the second and third waves of COVID-19 in the UK. The sixth session reviewed the mental health impacts of COVID-19 and how this was being mitigated in Newham, the take-up of the COVID-19 vaccination in Newham, and what was being done to encourage this. In these meetings, the evidence was taken and reviewed, which has led to the formulation of the recommendations that you can see in this report. NUR's response must reflect the diversity of its community. Evidence taken by the Commission shows that factors relating to health and well-being, particularly during the pandemic, but also more generally, are often linked with factors relating to community and socio-economic status. The Director of Public Health report, which was submitted to the Commission, highlights this. Whilst many of these factors are correlated with the experiences of people from diverse backgrounds, in the main, they relate to issues of poverty and social injustice, with clearly identified health risks. Therefore, as has been mentioned in this report, I would ask that the Executive carefully consider the disproportionate impact that this pandemic has had on our diverse community. And I close by sincerely thanking all the witnesses who provided evidence to the Commission, as well as all who participated in any way. My thanks goes to my colleagues who served tirelessly in the Commission, going above and beyond in participating in the additional and often fast-paced meetings which serving on the Commission entailed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee Parkway. Similarly, I've noted the range of recommendations that have been set out specifically across pages 62 going on to page 65, the top of page 65. And we will be providing you a thorough, full response in line with the protocol in place between Scrutiny and the Executive. So that will be within the agreed timescale of 2 months. And I similarly note and want to thank you in your chairing of that task and finish group on behalf of Overview and Scrutiny for the wide-ranging examination that you and other members undertook during what has been and was certainly the most significant public health crisis the world has ever seen, and was wholly unanticipated on part of the nations of the world. I recall clearly some of those sessions that I attended, being the lead member coordinating the member executive response to COVID-19 along with the chief executive. And as you'll be aware, in the context of that emergency situation, the Emergency and Contingencies Act, alongside the Coronavirus Act 2020, kicked in, and that conferred responsibility in terms of the emergency response to the chief executive and the council's gold group command. And there was the requisite member oversight on part of the executive, led by myself with the support of other cabinet members. And so the usefulness of the task and finishes group's examination of key areas was welcomed, and I look forward to presenting you in a couple of months' time our formal response. So I'm going to just ask, are there any particular questions that are crucially needing to be raised for clarification at this stage by any member of Cabinet? No? All right, thank you very much, Councillor Lee Parkway, and I very much appreciate your presentation. Now we're going to be going to the Scrutiny Commission report pertaining to mental health services review, and I'm going to be inviting the Scrutiny Commission member leading on health, Councillor Aisha Chowdhury, I assume, who is going to be leading this. Yeah?
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Commission agreed to look at the issue of mental health services as part of its work program. The Commission recognized that the work of mental health services were an important area that needed to be reviewed, even before the effects of the pandemic. Now it's more important that the Executive Scrutiny Commission and our NHS partners keep mental health services under review to ensure that they meet the projected need in light of the pandemic. As the Commission had carried out this review, we thought that it was prudent to present the findings in a short summary report to the Executive and our NHS partners. This is a recognition that many mental health services have been revamped in the borough in light of the pandemic, especially in how they are delivered. And therefore, some of the evidence was taken pre-pandemic. Its first evidence session in November 2019, the Commission heard from the Cabinet member for Health and Adult Social Care, officers from councils and the local CCG and East London Foundation Trust. The Commission was given a detailed breakdown of the mental health services that were treated in the borough. We were also told about some of the innovative work, such as the collaborative work between the council services and how they engaged with police and GPs. I was pleased to hear about LFT's Newham Center for Mental Health would establish a new service at Newham University Hospital. I was also pleased to hear about the additional funding to expand the specialist parental mental health team for pregnant women and new mothers, children and adults and mental health services. The local CC have confirmed that it continue its investment more year on year into local emotional well-being and mental services for children. We would expect and hope that more funding be provided to reflect the impact of the pandemic on many of our children, young people, and their mental health. In our second session, we heard from council officers and local CCT and LFT as we discussed children and adult and mental health services and the Head Start program. It was refreshing to hear about all the work being carried by those who work in Head Start program and by CAM. We heard from officers and two senior school leaders about the positive impact of Head Start program in the local school. And were excited by the prospect of the Head Start program continuing in some form once the 5 years of lottery funding had concluded. Our final session in September 2020, we were briefed about the mental health services provided for the over 65. But alongside that, we were given an overview of mental health services in light of the many changes that had been implemented due to the onset of the pandemic. The report outlines how the council and our NHS partners were able to undergo a huge and rapid digital transformation, allow them to develop new methods to stay connected with patients. As members, we all can appreciate the effort of council and NHS staff to ensure that our residents could access services in this new climate. It was also uplifting to hear about the council had held workshop last summer to hear from residents and patients to consider the impact of the pandemic and how it could affect the mental health and well-being of the borough residents. We hope that council heard from residents would help save services in the future. We also are pleased to hear from NHS partners that they would be focusing on inequalities and would address some of the findings of the pandemic and its disproportionate effect on some of our communities in the borough. I want to conclude that recommendations recognize that mental health services are in flux as we still don't know the full impact of the pandemic on all our mental health. So we do ask the executive and our NHS partners to services provision under review and consider where possible. It allocate additional funding for allocate additional funding for mental health services. Finally, I would like to say thank you to all the Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Commission members, officers, executive members, external partners for their time and support. I hope Cabinet accepts the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chowdhury. I'm going to invite the Cabinet Member for Health and Adult Social Care to just make any initial comments, albeit a formal executive response will be provided in line with the protocol agreed between Scrutiny and the executive of within a 2-month period. So, Zulfikar, is there anything you'd like to say by way of response?
Thank you very much indeed, Jade. And first of all, I would like to thank Councillor Aisha Chowdhury and the Scrutiny team and the Commission and officers for this very comprehensive, detailed report that they've produced following a number of sessions with all our partners. And clearly the 7 recommendations you have put forward are worthy of noting, and particularly in light of the COVID situation, as we all know that mental health has suffered quite substantially. yet to be determined in terms of the extent of the impact that it had in Neum. But your recommendations are quite broad and quite widespreading in terms of partnership role within even within the council departments. So I really look forward to going through with our partners as well as our internal departments, because you have included quite a comprehensive and an integrated approach as part of your recommendations. So we will look at those and provide a detailed response. But once again, thank you very much indeed for a very enlightening report and very much based on evidence that was presented to your commission during the course of the various sessions that you've held. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jane.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you.
We're now going to be moving on to the final Scrutiny Commission report, and this relates to modern slavery review. And I am going to be inviting the relevant Scrutiny Chair, who in this instance is Councillor Anton McColmont, who's actually the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. Is that correct, Councillor McColmont?
Hello, Madam Mayor and Cabinet. I'm afraid not. It's gone to hell.
So, sorry, it's which Scrutiny Chair?
It's Daniel Lee Parkway.
Oh, okay. My apologies, Anthony. And
I don't want to be this thunder.
yeah, apologies. So, Councillor Daniel Lee Parkway, over to you. Would you like to introduce your report?
Thank you very much. As the Chair of the Crime and Antisocial Behaviour Scrutiny Commission, I am proposing the Commission's Modern Slavery Review Report and its recommendations. I was very enthused with the support that the report received at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee when it was approved. There was genuine hope that the recommendations in the report could help the Council and its partners to effectively combat modern slavery in the borough. It is relevant that this comes to the Executive now, with the Modern Slavery Act in 2015 consolidating the current offences relating to trafficking and slavery and introducing a range of new measures around the prevention of modern slavery and the support and protection of its victims. This legislation has also given councils a crucial role in tackling modern slavery and human trafficking by introducing a number of duties for local authorities to undertake. The Commission had originally decided to conduct an in-depth review into modern slavery. However, the Commission were advised that the Executive would be moving forward quickly and producing a modern slavery strategy for the Council. On this advice, it decided to switch its in-depth review to one on young women's participation in gangs. The Commission still decided, however, to hear evidence from officers on modern slavery and human trafficking as the Executive developed its proposals. Early on, the Commission heard that as part of the ongoing compliance checks, there would be a requirement for the annual submission of modern slavery policy statements and proof of compliance from all providers with a turnover over £36 million. The Commission was told that this was the current legal level for the register to be set at and that turnover was of less relevance than the sector the company operated in. The Commission felt, however, that the Council should look to raise its ambitions on this matter and require all suppliers to have a modern slavery statement, regardless of turnover. The Commission also had interesting discussions with executive members and officers about the role that central government agencies can play in helping the Council and local people to tackle modern slavery and human trafficking in the borough. The view of the Commission was that the Council should consider the ways and means that it could utilise external resources, for example, those of the Border Agency and the Home Office, when and if the Council need them. The Commission will also get evidence from officers from various directorates in the Council on how they were tackling modern slavery and human trafficking in the borough. It was clear that we need to ensure our frontline Council officers at the very least have the tools and training to spot incidences of modern slavery in our borough. Evidence was taken from policy officers early on as the Commission constructed this report, and the Commission believed that the Council should ensure that key partners become signatories to the Newham modern slavery strategy, and it shouldn't just be a Council-focused strategy. The Commission heard that Newham ranks as the 4th highest borough in London for modern slavery referrals in 2018. That amounted to 72 referrals in total, and the Commission inquired whether officers felt that that was a reasonable number for Newham. When Newham compares its figures in 2018 to the London Borough of Croydon, when it came to the Council instituted referrals, there were only 13 referrals to Croydon's 45 referrals. This shows that there was plenty of work for us to do in this borough. The Commission also considered evidence from officers from within the Adults and Health Directorate. The Commission heard excellent examples of how Council officers are ensuring that potential victims of modern slavery and human trafficking are at the forefront of their thinking and day-to-day operations. The Commission believed that the Council should ensure that its officers, such as those who inspect properties to ensure that landlords are adhering to the terms of their landlord licence, or licensing officers visiting businesses, are tasked in their day-to-day duties to detect and seek out possible cases of modern slavery and human trafficking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lee Parkway. I'm going to be inviting the Cabinet Member for Crime and Community Safety to make some initial remarks, notwithstanding the formalities of us as an executive providing you a formal response within the 2-month time frame as set out in the protocol between Scrutiny and the executive. So, Councillor James Beckles.
Thanks, Chair. As lead member for Crime and Community Safety in Newham, I am pleased to welcome this scrutiny review on modern-day slavery, which has examined the Council's role in raising the profile, awareness and support of victims in this important area. Modern-day slavery, with the links to human trafficking and extreme exploitation, has seen a rise in figures over recent years. It is therefore critically important that as a local authority, we are doing all that we can to tackle this most terrible and brutal crime. We know that modern-day slavery targets the most vulnerable and takes many forms. The challenge is to understand how this relates to people living in Newham who don't necessarily appear to be in servitude so that we can stop it. There are no typical victims of modern-day slavery. It is something which is hidden in plain sight, and sadly, anyone, all genders, children, all ethnicities and nationalities across the population can be the victims of modern-day slavery. The Scrutiny Commission began its review prior to the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic. It has played an important role in focusing the Council's attention on this issue and the development of an ambitious and partnership-focused modern-day slavery strategy, which was approved by Cabinet in April 2021. The executive response to the Scrutiny Commission's recommendations is attached for approval. On the whole, this is hugely supportive of the recommendations. The development of our modern-day slavery strategy has addressed a number of the recommendations in this report. Cabinet members share the ambition of the Scrutiny Commission that we need to go further than our legal duties in relation to modern-day slavery. In particular, what we demand in terms of the adoption of good practice and what we expect of our partners and all those we work with. To that end, we will improve and extend the way in which we commission and procure services, increasing the weight we place on social value and scoring. We will be rapidly working towards all suppliers having a modern-day slavery policy, and with a focus on training and awareness training across a wide range of services, partners, residents, and voluntary community and faith organizations. Furthermore, it is worth highlighting that in our efforts and practices to combat modern-day slavery and support victims, we will ensure that residents with insecure or unclear migration status are treated fairly and proportionally. Collectively, we can make a difference to ensure victims are identified and supported through proactive action. I therefore commend this review report and the executive response to the Cabinet for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on that note, I'm going to suggest that we move on to the next agenda item, but once again, thank you on behalf of all the executive, Councillor Lee Parkway. So, colleagues, we're now going to be moving on to agenda item 9, which is the Newham Youth Zones for the 21st Century, New Shipman Youth Zone Build. And I'll invite the Cabinet Lead, Futures, Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway, to introduce the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members, officers and residents. This report seeks approval for capital funding for the demolition and rebuilding of the Shipman Youth Zone in Prince Regent's Lane, E16. It also seeks approval to procure the project via direct award using the PAGABO framework, including officer delegation to award stage 1 and stage 2 contracts. Newham is a young borough with well above average numbers of young people. This proposed investment of 6.5 million into the rebuilding and development of the Shipman Youth Zone is part of our manifesto commitment to support Newham's young people, including investment in our youth zones, which provides a vital space for our young people. The existing Shipman Youth Zone, located in the most economically deprived part of the borough, is beyond economic repair. The report proposes that a brand new youth zone is built to replace the current facility because our young people deserve nothing less. This significant investment will see a new exemplary state-of-the-art space with expanded resources and a new improved service offering, available 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. We will offer young people activities at a convenient time to suit their lifestyles and their timetables. Be under no illusion, the coronavirus and its after effects of the pandemic have put an enormous strain on council finances. However, this administration believes in fulfilling the promises we have made to the young people of this borough, and that we shall do. The new youth zone will include a blue sky classroom offering an immersive and creative outdoor environment. Procurement is proposed via the Pedagogo framework, which helps organisations to maximise social value from the procurement process, supporting the council's community wealth building agenda. The reason for the recommending direct award via the Pedagogo framework are set out in the report. We are committed to providing an interim provision whilst the rebuild of Shipman is taking place. We will work collaboratively with local partners to provide a comprehensive offer to our young people. Special consideration has been given to the locality of the interim provision as our young people and their safety is paramount. I commend this report to Cabinet. I also have my officer, Geetha, here to answer any technical questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Colleen Lee Parkway. I'm just going to invite Geetha or any other officers that are here to elaborate or respond to any technical questions. Geetha?
I have nothing further to add, thank you, Chair, except to say this is a really great opportunity for our children and young people, and will make part of our youth offer something exemplary that our young people can be proud of.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of Cabinet, either Cabinet members on Zoom or here? Okay, I have, hi, Councillor Anne Easter.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask, please, presumably during holiday times, the new Shipman Centre will be full of young people doing all sorts of exciting things. But during school times, I imagine it will not be quite so full, particularly during the day. May I ask if the centre will be available for other people who would not qualify as youth at times when it's available and open?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Anne Easter. Yes, the building is going to be looked at to be a civic building, so it's for the people. And what we'll be looking into is a family and community offer while the building is not being used by the youth zone. So most definitely we will look into that, and we will forge those relationships with the community in order to make sure that space can be used to its best of its ability.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of Cabinet that wish to raise a question or a point of clarification? No? Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So, colleagues, before we jump onto the recommendations, I just really wanted to commend the Cabinet member for Brighter Futures alongside officers who I know have worked really, really hard with regards to the detail and the rigour as it pertains to this report. And you'll all be aware that notwithstanding our ongoing focus on the provision of exemplary universal youth service provision and on offer that's exceptional here for our borough's young people, we've also got a manifesto commitment of doubling the number of youth zones in the borough. And I just really wanted to make the distinction with regards to this particular Cabinet report as it pertains to a pre-existing youth hub that has been long-standing in a part of the borough that has been hollowed out, for want of a better word, in terms of youth provision for our young people in neighbourhoods. That need is really evident and has been yearned for a very long time. And so I guess the point that I'm making is that this is a timely and probably long overdue investment in a long-standing youth club that has offered life-changing provision and services to our young people in Custom House and the surrounding areas in that part of the borough. I remember when I was a councillor for Custom House, I used to organise monthly ward councillor sessions at Shipman Youth Hub. One of the projects and conversations that I undertook with young people at Shipman was enabling them to imagine their perfect youth hub. And I'm really pleased to see that this refurbishment proposal of Youth Hub will be involving young people in the co-production and co-design of what will come next. And I'm anticipating and looking forward to this being a similarly iconic building, embracing the same ambition that we have applied to the Stratford Circus Youth Hub, which will be launched soon as our flagship. So I just really wanted to commend all officers involved in this piece, but particularly Lynn Crank and her team, because I know that you've had to carry a huge amount within the constraints of a diminishing budget for too many years. And the team at Shipman in Custom House on Prince Regent's Lane have literally done life-changing and life-saving stuff. So thank you very much. We're going to be going on to the recommendations. So I just wanted to draw all Cabinet members' attention to the recommendations as set out in the report from 2.1 going through to 2.1.3. And in the interests of clarifying what we're determining as a Cabinet, for those members of the public that are watching and may not have to hand the Cabinet report, the recommendations are as follows. 2.1, for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1 to allocate additional capital funding of £6.5 million to the project as set out in paragraph 8.1.1 of this report. 2.1.2, subject to recommendation 2.1.1 above, to approve the proposed procurement strategy for a demolition and rebuilding project at Shipman Youth Zone, Prince Regent's Lane, E16, at an estimated contract sum of £5.5 million as set out in paragraphs 4.16 to 4.20 of this report. And then finally, 2.1.3, to delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Brighter Futures, who also happens to be Newham's Children and Young People's Commissioner, in consultation with the Corporate Director of Resources and the Cabinet Member for Brighter Futures, to finalise the costs and direct award. A stage 1 contract to Nilcott Construction Limited via the Pagabo framework. B, and on successful completion of stage 1, to award a stage 2 contract to Nilcott Construction Limited via the Pagabo framework, subject to planning permission and other statutory consent. I trust I'm pronouncing Pagabo correctly. I probably am not, but it's an interesting, curious name for a company. Right, so Cabinet members in the room, do you agree? Carleen?
I agree.
James Asser?
Agreed.
Shaban Mohammed?
Agreed.
Sarah Ruiz?
Agreed.
Terry Paul?
Agreed.
And James Beckles?
Agreed.
And Roxana Fiaz, the Mayor, agrees as well. Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to now move over to...
Chair, sorry, if I can just interrupt you, sorry, and I missed this the first time round, but agenda item 8, the Commission on Modern Day Slavery, there was actually some recommendations that needed approving.
My understanding is that we can't approve anything until we've been given 2 months protocol time to provide a proper, informed, considered response. And that wasn't brought to my attention.
Right, okay. I do apologise then.
Sorry, if I may, Joy, I'm in the middle of finalising a Cabinet decision that doesn't relate to agenda item 8. So perhaps finish that one and then you can draw my attention to the matter that you'd like to, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right, okay, so could you just note that all cabinet members present at this formal meeting in Dockside have agreed the recommendations set out on page 133. So that's 2.1, 2.11, 2.1.2, 2.1.3. Has that been noted?
It has, yes.
Right, okay, so now let's address the issue that you've wanted to raise with me. So recommendations. Okay, so what I don't understand is that this is a Scrutiny Commission report that's been presented to Cabinet formally, and in line with the protocol, we've got 10 months to respond. So I'm unclear why there are recommendations, notwithstanding me having referenced that we're going to be providing a response. So Jessica, could you advise?
Yes, apologies if it's not clear, Mayor. You're completely correct. The first three scrutiny reports are being presented in line with the new protocol, and the executive have 2 months to respond formally. But the modern slavery report, which is item 8, was actually developed and provided to the executive before the protocol came into effect. So for that one only, there's actually a formal executive response, which Councillor Beckles did reference in his comments, and so it's for that one only that both are being presented together, which was the previous practice. So that's why it's slightly different from the first three. So on this one only, you're asked to endorse the executive response as noted by Councillor Beckles.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And outside of this meeting, if you could liaise with the Mayor and Cabinet Office and advise that proper notes need to be provided with the relevant detail, because that wasn't contained in reports, in notes for me.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for members of the Cabinet only present in this room, can you revert back to page 97 of the agenda pack? And I'm going to read out the recommendations set out on page 97, and this pertains to agenda item 8, which is the Scrutiny Commission report, Modern Slavery Review, report and recommendations. So 2.1, the executive notes the scrutiny report and recommendations on ending modern slavery, that the executive provide their response as part of the ending modern slavery strategy cabinet agenda item, that the report's recommendations are considered with regards to informing the future action planning for ending modern slavery. So, sorry, before I ask you to agree or not, Jessica, again, 2.2, it states that the executive provide their response as part of the ending modern slavery strategy cabinet agenda item. Do you mean the Scrutiny Commission agenda item, or do you mean a separate cabinet agenda item?
It's attached as Appendix 2 to this particular item. So you've got the Scrutiny Commission report item. Appendix 1 is the scrutiny review, and Appendix 2 is the executive response.
So that recommendation isn't very clear. So should it rather read, the executive provide their response as part of the ending modern slavery strategy cabinet agenda item as appended?
Yes, it should, absolutely.
Okay, so can you correct recommendations for agenda item 8, please, Joy?
Will do.
So that they feature in the minutes.
Will do, thank you.
Thank you. I trust cabinet members understand what's just gone on.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Carleen Lee Parkway, do you agree?
I agree.
Thank you. Councillor James Asser.
Agreed.
Councillor Shaban Mohammed.
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles.
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul.
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Agreed.
And Roxana Fiaz, the Mayor of Newham, agrees as well. Right, now we're going to be jumping on to agenda item 10, which is expansion of Lister School and creation of JFK Annex funding arrangements, new modular building contract award, plus communication and engagement protocol. Over to you, Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members and members of the public, should they be here instead of watching football. This project is part of the council's strategy to expand secondary schools to provide sufficient school places to meet the forecast demand. The proposal is to expand Lister School from 9 forms of entry to 11 forms of entry. The council has already agreed in principle that the school should be expanded. The project also includes development of an annex to JFK School on the Lister School premises as part of the council's commitment to provide excellent provision for students with special education needs and disabilities. Agreement for the Lister expansion and the JFK annex to proceed was subject to resolution of a long-standing dispute between the council and Lister School. This is now resolved and a binding settlement agreement has been signed. The Lister expansion and JFK annex will be delivered via 3 separate construction contracts. The 3 contracts are: 1, extension and modification of existing modular buildings. The procurement of this was agreed under officer delegation in October 2020. Remodelling of existing school buildings, and this was agreed by Cabinet in April 2021, and a new 3-storey modular building, and this is the subject of this report. The proposed expansion will assist sustained and continued improvements in education, including for pupils with special education needs and disabilities. It will allow more young people living in the area to access a school place closer to their home. Details of the consultation that was carried out on this project are set out in the report, and Appendix 1 contains a proposed new consultation protocol for future school expansion projects. Finally, community use of Lister School premises is managed by the council via Active Newham. And I believe Tim and Mark are here should they wish to add anything else.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sarah Ruiz. And Tim, can I invite you to say anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I've just a couple of things to add. Councillor Ruiz has covered a lot of the ground. So as she stated, this is about increasing both the mainstream provision from 9 forms of entry to 11 forms of entry, but also to introduce an annex of JFK Special School, which is a really innovative way of meeting the needs of children who have complex autism. It's a real example of an inclusive and collaborative approach across the partnership, and that will provide up to 25 places for those children with special educational needs by 2022. As Councillor Ruiz has stated, this is about the contract to award for a 3-storey modular building at a price of £8.3 million. Councillor Ruiz has already mentioned the PFI issue. We know there is a binding settlement agreement to resolve that issue between the local authority and the school, and there will be a deed of variation which will cover services to this expanded element of the school. As Councillor Ruiz has mentioned, this latest element of the contract is within the overall envelope of 20.01 million, and that was agreed by Cabinet in April 2021. What is being recommended in this report is that £2 million of basic needs capital funding from the DFE is replaced by £2 million of SEND capital funding from the DFE, which will give us greater flexibility to use that basic need capital funding in the future. And finally, in Appendix 1, there is set out a new approach to communications and consultation in relation to this and any future school expansion projects to ensure that future communication is clear, consistent and comprehensive. And I will leave it there, Mayor, but we have Mark Butler, the Director of Asset Management, who's also available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions from any members of Cabinet? Okay, Councillor Terry Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the report. Many of our children are placed outside the borough due to their complex needs. How will this new provision impact upon that situation? Could you illuminate that, please?
May I answer, Chair?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. I think that one of the most advantageous of having this new annex at Lister is that up to 25 young people who are currently being educated outside the borough will actually be educated in their borough with the ability to be able to form friendship circles. They'll live closer to home. It's just, they will feel part of the community and part of Lister School, because I think that we need to recognise that having an annex at Lister School isn't some sort of tucked away in a corner somewhere. It will be part of the school, and those young people will be part of Lister School as well. So I think it will be really advantageous to our young people. Going away to a different borough for education means that they have a fractured friendship circle, and that for children with additional needs is doubly important because they don't always make friends that easily.
Thank you very much.
Is that satisfactory? Thank you very much. Can I call on Councillor Colleen Lee Parkway to ask her question?
Thank you, Chair. I actually don't have a question. I more have a comment. I just want to congratulate Councillor Ruiz and the team for their diligence in this piece of work. The commitment to inclusion here in Newham is something that we do not take lightly. And I just want to commend you all. 25 places for complex ASD is something that we need so much of. And actually this will be, for some children, an opportunity for a life-changing experience within education. And I do note that Lister School has already a resource provision status in regards to the children with hearing difficulty. So really, really pleased to see this report. Glad that it's here before us today, and just want to commend you all for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Nope. Right, so we're going to be going straight on to the recommendations. The recommendations are set out on page 164 of the hard copy agenda pack that I'm looking at, and I will be reading it for the benefit of those members of the public or press that are watching and don't have access to the Cabinet report, which I should hasten to add is available online via the Newham Council website. Be it you'll have to do a search for Cabinet decisions and then figure out how to download it. It's not necessarily that easy. Right, so for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to 2.1.1 agree to allocate £2 million high needs provision capital funding to the JFK Annex project for the reasons outlined at paragraph 4.1 of this report. 2.1.2, award a contract in the sum of £8,350,000 to the McAvoy Group Limited for erection of a new 3-storey modular building to expand Lister School as set out at paragraphs 3.5 and section 4 of this report. And 2.1.3, agree the communications and engagement protocol for future school expansion projects as outlined at paragraph 7.5 of this report and detailed at appendix 1. So just in terms of approvals, I'll be asking Cabinet members only in this room. Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway.
I agree.
Councillor James Asser.
Agreed.
Councillor Shaban Mohammed.
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles.
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul.
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Agreed.
And Mayor Roxana Fiaz agrees as well. Thank you very much. Now we're going to be going over to agenda item 11, and we have a report titled Libraries for the Future, Plaistow Library Investment, Upgrading and Relocation. And I'm going to be inviting the Deputy Cabinet Member for Resident Engagement and Neighbourhoods, which is Councillor Musbah Rahman, to present this report. Sorry, can I just double check? Councillor Charlene McLean is not present at the meeting, is she?
No.
All right, Joy, can you just note her apologies as well?
Yes, I did, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so Councillor Musbah, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
This report proposes substantially improve and expand library facilities currently available at Plaistow Library through a relocation to Belter Group and 3.3 capital funding investment. Library have an absolutely vital place in the life of our communities. Chair, due to your courage and determination, we are proud that despite all the financial pressure the Council has faced, we have not closed down any of our libraries. Moreover, as we emerge from COVID-19 pandemic, our library will play a vital role in rebuilding and reconnecting our local communities. We are proposing this substantial investment to relocate and upgrade our library service in Plaistow. Those ambitions are at the center of our Towards Better Newham recovery plan. The library service will move to a purpose-built facility at Belter Group, providing an improved service with increased community space, responding to Council ambition to make Newham the best place for children and the families. It is part of our ambition to create strong and exclusive economy and better environment for all to improve people's quality of life. This project also contribute to Council's social integration strategy, providing many opportunities and bring people together, promote greater understanding and connection between generation and communities. In relation to the existing Grade 2 listed building and what happened to after the service has relocated, a high-level review of the main option has been undertaken, centralized around the cost of basic repair, refurbishment, and alternative use. Those options will be further developed during the 5 years period of the project, with the aim of finalizing the option before the service relocate. Chair, as you and your administration believe that people at the heart of everything we do, this project is the further example of importance of our libraries at the heart of our communities and how we develop the very best local, sustainable, accessible neighborhood for our 21st century. In summary, the decision required to relocate the library service from its current location in North Street to a Belter Group facilities, relinquish the existing building to property service, providing modern facilities to a better location, to allocate and apply 3.33 million capital funding to fit out the Belter Group facilities, to enter into a leasehold agreement with Popular Living, and to delegate authority to the Corporate Director for People Policy and Performance to agree final terms and take all necessary steps to negotiate and complete the leasehold agreement. Thank you, Chair. Our officers are here to answer any question you may have. Before that, Mohammed, do you want to elaborate any more of this project?
No, I don't have any further comments, and we also got Jessica Crow here as well.
Nothing further to add, Chair, but very happy to answer questions. I think the report makes clear this is a really great way of both re-providing the library service in a better building, but also in a better location, and improving the availability of community space in Plaistow. So it hits a number of objectives really, and I commend it to the Cabinet.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and similarly, thank you very much, Councillor Rahman, for your introduction to this Cabinet report. So do we have any questions, colleagues? Any? I just have one question. I noted in the report that there was reference in terms of the existing site that will be vacated, subject to the relocation of the Valletta Grove. There will be ongoing sort of analysis or work undertaken with regards to what happens to the vacant site. And I guess my question revolves around how long will that take to ensure that we optimise in the speediest of ways its use for the wider community. We all know what happens when there's a vacant building left in neighbourhoods and also the associated monies, resourcing that we have to inject around security, and for too long, in too many instances, as part of what we've sort of revealed under the auspices of this administration, too many buildings have been left boarded up and vacated, notwithstanding the high security costs. So a case in point being the old the old library in Canning Town, which I know is being worked through in terms of some proposals that will be coming forward to Cabinet at some stage soon. So what has been the scale of work undertaken to date with regards to its alternative use, so that we don't have a situation where in that particular neighbourhood, which has rightly been mentioned, there is a need for community use, that building isn't left vacated for too long?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that if that's helpful. Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think what's good about this proposal is that we have 4 years until the Valletta Grove development is completed, and we're ready for fitting out the library. So that does give us a good period of time to really look at the options for the current Plaistow library building. What's been done so far is a high-level options appraisal, which has identified the kind of most readily usable, if you like, alternative uses in terms of community space or conversion to some kind of venue, which could potentially be operated as both community and commercial use. It is a Grade 2 listed building, so whilst we know that housing is much needed, it's not an ideal building for conversion to housing, but the two preferred uses, if you like, are what will be explored first. And absolutely, we would not want to vacate until we had clear plans for the building's future use. As I say, we do have some 4 years until we reach that point.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions, colleagues? Nope. Right, so I'm just going to be going on to the recommendations as set out on page number 178, going on to the top of 179, set out in the report and its appendices. Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1 to relocate the library service from its current location in North Street to the Valletta Grove facility and relinquish the existing building to property services. 2.1.2 to allocate and apply £3.33 million of capital funding to the fit out of the Valletta Grove facility. 2.1.3 to enter into a leasehold arrangement with Popolo Living for the relocation of the library and provision of community space on the terms set out in the exempt Appendix 4. And finally, 2.1.4, delegate authority to the Corporate Director of People, Policy and Performance to agree final terms and take all necessary steps to negotiate and to complete leasehold arrangement. So, do we agree? Before I get confirmation or not. Sorry, just on 2.1.4, I'm assuming you will be nonetheless consulting with the portfolio lead? Jessica?
Yes, of course. Yeah, in the normal way, Chair.
Okay, fine. Joy, can we just add a slight amendment to that recommendation 2.1.4? So where it says to delegate authority to the Corporate Director of People Policy and Performance, comma, in consultation with the Cabinet lead, close comma, to agree final terms and take all necessary steps to negotiate and complete the leasehold arrangement. Have you
Yes.
noted?
Yes, I have. Thank you.
Right, colleagues, is that all followed and understood? Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway.
I agree.
Councillor James Asser. Councillor Shabbat Mohammed.
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul.
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles.
Agreed.
Mayor Roxana Fiala agrees. Right, now we're going to be going on to agenda item 12. Please note that there's an appendix to agenda item 12 as with the previous agenda item, which is exempt. So if there are any questions you'd like to ask pertaining to the exempt section, I'm going to need to remove the public and press, but just let me know if you do want to ask a question. So this is cyclical decorations and repairs programme, and that is Councillor Shabbat Mohammed.
Thank you, Chair. This report relates to the award of a contract for the essential works of repair and redecoration to the council's housing stock. Undertaking planned works of this type improves the standard of our homes and also reduces the demand for and the cost of responsive maintenance. Investing in our homes and undertaking regular redecoration of the common areas will ensure that our homes are well maintained, will reduce the long-term maintenance costs, also improve the wider community environment. Contracts of this type demonstrate this administration's and the council's commitment to improve the quality of our housing and community investment. Also, on recent walkabouts, this is very much needed investment, so thank you. And I think Dave Hughes is here to answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shabbat Mohammed. Right, are there any other comments the Corporate Director Dave Hughes wishes to make at this juncture?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Mohammed. I'd just point out that obviously we'll go with a full communications plan to let our residents know when these works are starting and the benefits. And also in the report, draw to your attention that this contract will be let in line with all our community wealth building targets in terms of the London Living Wage minimum, and then also local labour to minimum 25%, and the use of local contractors / suppliers. So commend that report to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, colleagues? Anyone? Nope, I can't see any hands up. Right, so colleagues, we're going to be jumping straight to the recommendations set out on big page number 214. And I shall read it out. Recommendations 2.1. For the reasons set out in the report and its appendix, Cabinet is recommended to agree the award of the contract for the cyclical decorations and repairs programme to Bell Decorating Group in the sum of £2,583,314. The contract will commence in September 2021 for a term of 1 year. Do we agree?
Agreed.
Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway.
Agreed.
Councillor James Asser.
Agreed.
Councillor Shabbat Mohammed.
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul.
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles.
Agreed.
Mayor Roxana Fiala agrees as well. Right, we're going to now move on to agenda item 13. Have I got that right? Yep. This is the East London Joint Resources and Waste Strategy, minimising the impact of East London's waste on the environment. Over to you, Councillor James Beckles.
James Asser.
Sorry, Asser, even. I am so sorry. I keep on doing that. Apologies, James Beckles.
All three in a row, so you could do one if you wanted. That'd probably make life easier. Okay, thank you. It's a key ambition for the council to improve our waste services and reduce the overall amount of rubbish we collect. whilst increasing the amount we recycle. And we also know that residents are very keen to see an increase in the amount of our recycling and a more effective service. Indeed, it should be said that Newham has already seen an improvement in its level of recycling for the work we've already started to undertake, and we've already negotiated a much greater range of materials that can be recycled, and we'll be introducing those later this year. As part of our commitments with City Hall, we've been working with the East London Waste Authority, which is the waste disposal authority we have to deliver all our waste to, and the 3 other boroughs that comprise that, which are Havering, Redbridge and Barking and Dagenham, to create a East London Waste Strategy. The strategy will help the council and our sister boroughs prepare and plan for the end of our long-term waste contract, which started in 2002 and ends in 2027. It will also determine the future strategy of how we dispose and recycle our waste, ensuring we're prepared for to deliver a greener service and manage waste in line with our ambitious climate targets and commitments we've made to reach in 2030. Plus, it will allow us to adapt to the changes we know will be coming from both City Hall and central government as they start to respond to some of the changes that we in the future. Key to ensuring that this strategy reflects the needs and aspirations of the community is to engage with residents and seek feedback, and as such the report, as you will see, sets out plans for public consultation on the strategy over the summer. It should be said this has already been agreed by the East London Waste Authority Board, but it does now have to be agreed by all 4 authorities as well, local authorities, so that's why it's come here for Newham's agreement. I've also got on Zoom with us both Francis, who is the Director of Public Realm, and Helen Dennis, who I'm better referred to as our waste guru. That's not her official title, it's effectively her job. I don't know if they wanted to add anything at that point.
Thank you very much. So do any officers wish to add anything?
Both Amber Francis, Director of Public Realm. Councillor Asser covered it off in detail, so I'll leave it at that if that's okay, Chair.
All right, super. So are there any questions from any member of Cabinet on Zoom or in the room or executive? Nope. Oh, Zulfikar, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. Thank you. Thanks to Councillor Isser and the team for bringing up this report. And clearly, there is, as the report says in section 3.1 and 3.2, a large number of initiatives have already been taken to improve our waste management recycling. So I do commend our officers. And I hope that this strategy by Elva is going to be complementing our own initiatives. And if there's anything that officers wish to add to that.
Yes, I mean, just to add, this is exactly the plan is that this is a cross-borough strategy, but breaks down with individual strategies for each borough too. So there are targets both locally and for the authority as a whole. I mean, it fits in with the work we're already doing, and I think we've said it before, but I'm happy to repeat it again about the changes we're making to recycling later this year, which will move our recycling from fortnightly to weekly and massively expand the amount of materials we can recycle in response to resident demand for that. So that's a key part of that. But obviously the consultation over the summer will feed into this, but it certainly will put us in good stead so that when we get to the new 2027, we're ready up and running.
Sorry, we just got some disturbance. Joy, are you able to mute everyone, because we're getting some background noise and I wasn't able to hear the last minute of Councillor James Asser's response to the question, and if I couldn't hear it from here, I don't think anyone else would have been able to hear it. So would you kindly repeat it, please?
Where did you hear it?
It was just a muffle and then loud background noise.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It seems to be on the screen coming from us, but I can't hear it in the room. It's slightly odd, isn't it? Yeah, so I was just saying, for those, to repeat that, this fits in with the work we've already done, and just to repeat, we are moving to weekly recycling later this year. At the same time, we'll be expanding our recycling offer to a whole range of new materials, including more plastics and glass, as well as a number of other things, which has been a key resident demand, and this fits in with this. But the other key thing is making sure we are ready for the end of the contract in 2027, so that we're ground running with a much better new contract that fits modern times, rather than get to 2027 and then have to do all that work. So it will certainly benefit people once we get to the end of that point in 6 years' time, which is nearer than you think, as officers keep reminding you.
Thank you very much. Time does fly, doesn't it? Right, so thank you very much for that response. Is that satisfactory, Councillor Zulfikar Ali?
That's perfect. It's really good to hear that we got so many initiatives being undertaken now. So well done to our officers for their exceptional efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bo and Helen. Right, are there...
One thing, sorry. Just
yeah, of course.
I just wanted to say to Helen, because I think this is her last cabinet meeting. She's done a few for us before she heads off on maternity leave. So just on behalf of the cabinet, congratulations, and see you in a year's time with a bouncing baby to bring to visitors, hopefully in person.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations and enjoy maternity leave and motherhood, and wish you all the best and a pain-free birth. Maybe that's a bit stupid. Birth can't be pain-free. Well, it depends on whether or not you have an injection, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm now frightening you. Just erase everything from your mind in terms of what I said. Right, thank you very much for that, James. So are there any other questions? Nope. Okay, fine. So we're going to go straight to the recommendations. On big page number 221, 2.1, for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1, the release of the draft East London Joint Resources and Waste Strategy, open bracket, the strategy, close bracket, and associated documents to the 4 statutory consultees, which are Environment Agency, Greater London Authority, Historic England, and Natural England. Then 2.1.2, the start of wider public consultation in line with the proposals in this report as set out in 4.11 to 4.16, and 2.1.3 to delegate to the Corporate Director of Environment and Sustainable Transport in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Environment, Highways and Sustainable Transport, the decision to make minor amendments to the proposal set out in this report. Such amendments will be limited to changes in the public consultation timeline and minor changes within the strategy document. So we'll be keeping an eye on you. Okay, right, so do we agree? Councillor Colleen Lee Parkway? Agree. Councillor James Asser?
Agreed.
Councillor Shaban Mohammed?
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles?
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul?
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Ruiz?
Agreed.
And Mayor Roxana Fiaz agrees as well. Thank you very much and good luck, Helen. We look forward to seeing you, hopefully, in a year's time, if I'm still around, that is, or if we're still around. Take care. Bye. So let's go on to Cabinet Agenda Item 14. Yeah. Right, so this is highways planned maintenance. Highways planned maintenance. And this is another Councillor James Asser.
This is another one of me, thank you. So this is the report for our plan for our maintenance work on the roads over the next 12 months. Keep New and Moving is the Council's programme to improve and maintain our roads and pavements. It's a vital area of work for many people, something that's of great interest and concern for our residents. This programme is our commitment to deliver good quality roads and pavements as part of our commitment to delivering a good quality public realm. The plan for the year ahead, year 6 of the current programme, delivers a number of important areas of work. £1.2 million with investment in East Ham High Street, which is obviously one of our major shopping areas. That is caveated with a requirement for match funding from the GLA. There will be £900,000 of repairing pavements, £100,000 on drains work to ensure gutters are clear and well maintained, and making it easier, particularly for pedestrians as well. £50,000 of white line renewal to make roads safe and clear for driving and cycling. And we'll also be resurfacing 10 kilometres of roads, as well as introducing a new repair method to deal with potholes and small repairs, which will be more effective. As part of the programme, we've also refocused the approach of delivery of Keep You Moving to ensure that we're prioritising our busiest roads as well, and those particularly with schools, places of worship, and those which are important to the local economy because they are key shopping areas. The new repair approach will also ensure that repairs to potholes are more effective and longer lasting and meet the demand from residents for better repairs and longer lasting ones. It will make the repairs more cost effective as well by lasting longer, making sure taxpayers' money goes further. Our plans for the year will continue to deliver the Keep Newham Moving programme while adjusting the focus to respond to the concerns and feedback we've had from residents to improve our main roads and our key public areas. And this also ties in the work we're doing on investing in our high streets and our plans on active travel to deliver a better, more accessible and modern Newham that works for all our residents, businesses and visitors.
Thank you very much, Councillor James Asser. Right, so do we have any questions from anyone? I cannot see any. Right, you all look pretty quiet today. Right. Recommendations on big page number 314. Right, so for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to 2.1.1 approve the proposed list of schemes planned for this year as set out in Appendix A. 2.1.2 approve the inclusion of a planned patching programme into the maintenance strategy for 2021 to 2022 as set out in Appendix B. Approve the delivery, 2.1.3, approve the delivery of East Ham Town Centre scheme through Keep Newham Moving funding as part of the overall 2021-2022 programme. And finally, 2.1.4, approve the implementation of the planned improvement works on High Street North should funding be granted to us by Transport for London, TfL that is, via the Principal Roads Renewal Programme. If TfL are unable to provide funding for the scheme in this financial year due to financial pressures created by the COVID-19 pandemic, we will postpone the delivery of the scheme until the funding becomes available. That sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it, Councillor James Asser? Because
it is a nature of the funding we get through TfL. I think we are hopeful of securing it. But obviously, if we can't, then that money will be repurposed for other aspects of Keep Newham Moving until we can get that funding in place.
Okay, fine. Right, so members of Cabinet in the room, I will be coming to you to ask if you approve. Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
Agreed.
Councillor Terry Paul.
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles.
Agreed.
Councillor Shaban Mohammed.
Agreed.
Councillor James Asser.
Agreed.
Councillor Carlini Parkway.
Agreed.
And Mir Roxana Fiaz agrees. Now we're going on to the final agenda item for this evening's Cabinet meeting. And this is agenda item 15, and this is award of highways professional services and works contracts 2021 to 2025. Again, this is a Councillor James Asser paper. Over to you.
Yes, I mean, this feeds quite nicely on from the paper we just discussed on the year ahead, because this is longer term. So the maintenance and designs of our streets is of importance, as we've discussed, to everyone in the borough, and one aspect of council life that affects every resident, business and visitor. It's also of huge importance to the council. We have the necessary resources and support in place to deliver for everyone our commitment to maintaining good quality roads and pavements, but also to improve the look and design of our public areas. The council made a commitment via Cabinet last year to divide up our maintenance contracts to ensure they could be more flexible and more adaptable and more responsive to the demands of the borough. And this report achieves that and will also allow us to call on outside expertise for the design of projects, allowing us to develop better design roads that will support our work on delivering better public spaces, something that's become all too key as we've been involved in making quite lots of changes in terms of some of our public spaces. It will bring in a team of new contractors that will deliver our major works on full resurfacing and redesign of roads into smaller repairs as part of meeting our promise and building on the work that's been undertaken through Keep Newham Moving, and it expands that programme to contribute to our ambitions to create more accessible and inclusive neighbourhoods. Newham is committed to improving the life chances of our young residents. We know we must use every tool we can do to support that, and therefore the contracts contain a commitment to recruit local apprentices as part of the schemes. Additionally, as part of our long-standing promise to deliver jobs for our residents, all the contracts have included a clause for suppliers to do their recruitment of these contracts through Newham's workplace. So whilst this is a report on road contracts and can all seem a bit technical, albeit necessary process, we are using it as an opportunity to provide benefits to residents in other areas as well.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I just need to add one little caveat, which has been sent to the secretary to the cabinet. The cabinet report, page 5, under table 3.18, has a couple of typos of the numbers, which I won't baffle everyone reading out. It doesn't change. It's just there's a bit of typo slip when typing it out, which leaves one of a couple of numbers wrong. Final calculations that has been shared already to be amended in the minutes, but I wanted to point that out before we made the final decision.
Okay, so colleagues, if I've understood Councillor James Asser correctly, it pertains to the table at section 3.18 of the report. Is that right?
That's correct.
The awarding score, the scores that were awarded, the weighted technical and commercial scores, yes?
Doesn't change the overall outcome, it just there is a typo.
Okay, fine. Are there any questions? Any members of Cabinet? No? Right. Any? Nope. Right. Okay, fine. So we're going to be going to the recommendations set out on big page number 330 to 331, top page. For the reasons set out in the report and its appendix, Cabinet has recommended to 2.1.1 approve the award of the Highway Professional Services Contract 2021 to 2025 to Project Centre Limited, up to an estimated value of £5 million throughout the lifetime of the contract. 2.1.2 approve the award of the following highway scheme and planned maintenance framework contracts. A, Lot 1 to O'Hara Brothers Servicing Limited and Marlborough Servicing Limited, and Lot 2 to JB Riney and Co Limited and Kenson Contractors Benton Limited. The estimated combined total value of £100 million throughout the lifetime of both lots. 2.1.3 delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Environment and Sustainable Transport in consultation with a Cabinet member to agree any extensions of the professional services contract beyond 2025 in line with the conditions of the tendered contract if necessary. 2.1.4 agree to a waiver of the contract standing orders, otherwise known as CSO, to enter into an extension of the existing highways work contract, lots 1 and 2 with FM Conway Limited for a period of up to 6 months, up to an estimated cost of £2 million, with a break clause to come into effect at the end of the first month. The break clause is to be reviewed on a monthly basis until the end of the 6-month extension. And 2.1.5, approved by way of contingency any necessary call-off contracts using TfL's Highway Maintenance and Projects Framework Agreement to the Professional Services Contract 2021 to 2025 and Highway Scheme and Planned Maintenance Framework Contracts, Lot 1 and Lot 2, detailed in recommendations 2.1.1 and 2.1.2. So I trust you all got that. So Councillor Sarah Ruiz, do you
agree?
Councillor Terry Paul?
Agreed.
Councillor James Beckles? Councillor Shabar Mohammed?
Agreed.
Councillor Colleen Lee Parkway? Agreed. Councillor James Asser?
Agreed.
Mayor Oksana Fiaz agrees. That brings us to the end of formal business. Before we conclude for the evening, I know that members of Cabinet wish to express their hopes and dreams about a very important event that is happening this evening at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to just be asking each member of the Executive and Cabinet to just spend up to 30 seconds to convey your thoughts and your feelings, if you want to, of course. Councillor Colleen Lee Parkway.
It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming. Football's coming home.
Right, I think that's it. Councillor James Asser.
I'm going to restrain myself.
Okay. Councillor Shabar Mohammed.
Come on, England.
All right. Councillor Sarah Ruiz.
I wasn't sure whether I should be supporting England or not.
Stop. Go away. Stop. Councillor Terry Paul.
Come on, England, we will win.
All right. Councillor James Beckles.
Good luck, lads.
Good luck, lads, yes.
Bring it home, boys.
Councillor Easter.
We're the best.
Councillor Zulfikar Ali.
I know you've done well, and I'm sure you won't disappoint us.
Councillor Muzaffer Rahman.
Good luck, England.
Brilliant. We look forward to seeing you in the final. Wish the entire England football team the best of luck tonight. Go get them. Tigers, or Lions, should I say, not
Lions, yes.